Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Marty Ross, and tonight's another Conversations with Marty Ross MD. You know, this is a webinar where we're going to discuss Lyme disease tonight. And our discussion is based on the questions that you ask. So I'm interested, as usual, to see what you have in store for me. The way you write your question, or the way that I take questions, is you have to write them to me. So the other thing I'm going to ask people to do is mute your microphones. I see a couple people I'm muting for you, but leave them muted unless I ask to talk to you directly. That way we don't hear all the background sounds then too. But to write your question, to have your question heard, you need to write it in the chat box. And I do want to warn you, I do not get through all the questions. I try as hard as I can, but as you all know, I do a lot of explaining along the way, so we'll get through as many as we can. But I think there's something for everyone to learn from everybody else's questions as well too. Now, after I take a written question, I may ask some qualifying questions of the person that wrote it, and then I will open it up to see if anyone has further comments or questions about that topic or that question that we just discussed. Okay. So I want to be clear when I open it up, I'm not asking you to ask a question about an entirely new topic. The only way to get an entirely new question asked is to write it to me. Okay. I want to be clear about that. All right. But I will take additional questions about the one that we're discussing. Okay. I know that gets confusing sometimes. I am creating a recording of tonight's webinar, and tomorrow morning, I keep saying between 9 and 9:30, but I think it's creeping more to 10 o'clock in the morning. I will get that out to you. You'll get an email notification from me. If you happen not to get an email notification tomorrow morning, take a look at the webinars page at Marty Ross MD Supplements, and you can find the video there. It'll go up there tomorrow morning as well too. Okay. I am not going to be having another webinar next week. And that is because I'm traveling to Colorado Springs early in the week for my dad's funeral. We're going to finally have my dad's funeral. And I'm just going to take a break from doing the webinar because of that next week. All right. So, but I will be back with you in 2 weeks. So tomorrow morning, when I send out that email, there'll be a link that you can sign up for the next webinar, which will be 2 weeks out from now. Okay. All right. So I think that kind of gets all the business task here. Why don't we go ahead and get started? So first question is from Jillian Wagner. Hi, Jillian. Let's see. Hi, Dr. Ross. Thank you so much for hosting this Q&A. You're welcome. When I first began this journey, I found out that I have Lyme, and also my GI map showed that I had C. diff overgrowth in my gut, as well as Candida overgrowth. My doctor put me on a 30-day treatment plan of oral and nebulized bioactive silver hydrosol to kill the C. diff and to treat the Lyme. I saw improvements in my insomnia, panic attacks, joint pain, and internal tremors. My heart palpitations and random events of tachycardia got worse, as well as my gut issues. My muscle twitches in my legs, arms, and stomach also got worse. I've stopped the silver treatment, and she's now treating my candida overgrowth with nystatin. Let's see. You're giving some doses of how she's doing it. And then my panic attacks and insomnia have started up again. I say panic attacks in quotes because I'm not convinced that is what they are. They include extreme high heart rate, um, facial flushing, cold sweats, blacking out, stomach pains, nausea, and vomiting. And Jillian, I don't see a question with this. Are you here somewhere?
Hi there. Yeah, sorry, it cut off. Oh, because it wouldn't let me type the rest out. Okay, so the rest says, okay, blacking out, stomach cramps, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, low-grade fever, shaking. I woke up to having one of these panic attacks a few nights ago. My questions are, one, are these panic attacks or is it a physical symptom of the Lyme in my brain? I was told by my doctors before, like my conventional doctors, I was diagnosed with panic disorder, and that's what they were just like writing it off as. I'm like waking up in this like full on episode, like from a deep sleep,
Right.
and they it seems like they always come on at night. I've had maybe one or two during the day.
Yeah.
They were better. I was treating it with silver. Is this my first question? Is that Lyme or is it really panic attacks? And then my second, should I be doing an herbal Lyme protocol like yours? My doctor, my doctor, I'm just feeling uncertain about her protocol for me. And I gave her, I was like, here's his. Can we do this? And she's like, mine works great. Like, I was like, well, okay, I'm trying it. She said, oh, should I be doing an herbal Lyme protocol at the same time as my yeast treatment since my other symptoms are getting worse? Like, I'm scared the Lyme is taking it back over my brain. I thought maybe I made progress. My doc never tested me for co-infections, but she is assuming I have Bartonella and Babesia as well. Should I get tested based on the symptoms, or is it safe to assume I also have these infections since I've got all the other weird stuff? My doc is planning to treat me for parasites next month using tinidazole. But when I look this up online, it doesn't seem like a good choice for a broad spectrum antiparasitic. This is like she's like laid out a 4-month plan for me. Wondering what your thoughts are on that. Feeling nervous about my doctor's plan for me and the effectiveness of it. Any insight you have for me is greatly appreciated. That's a lot. I'm sorry.
There's a number of things to tease out here. So first of all, so the silver, so let me just make some comments, and I'll try to hit your questions too. Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So just seeing C. difficile on a GI map does not mean it's a problem. I just
Right.
start by saying that, okay?
Yeah.
So all of us have Clostridium difficile, C. difficile lives in every one of us.
Right.
But the issue is that when we are put on antibiotics sometimes, this is one of those infections that lives in us that actually takes off and grows more when we're on
Right.
antibiotics. And then it releases toxins and we get bad diarrhea from it, okay? So I'm not sure that I agree that she treated you for C. diff, nor is there any science suggesting that silver is going to take care of it. All right.
Right.
But I wouldn't go back and try something else for it because, again, unless you are having profuse diarrhea, which is what you get when C. diff is a problem, then I would just, in my practice, I would leave that positive test alone. You don't treat a test, you treat the patient. And so
Right.
even though a test says something is there, we want to treat if it's causing you a problem. Okay. And so anyhow, I kind of disagree with that. All right. So
Okay.
when you have these tick-borne infections and these kind of conditions, the main reason that you feel poorly is that your immune system, in responding to the infections, or if you have mold toxicity, for instance, in responding to mold toxins, your immune system overproduces a group of chemicals called cytokines. Okay, and cytokines are good and bad. On the one hand, they try to turn the immune system on to deal with that problem, but on the other hand, they give you mental health problems. They can get like panic attacks, for instance. They can give you body pain. They make it so you can't think. They give you fatigue. Basically, all those symptoms that we throw at the board and we say those are Lyme symptoms or Bartonella symptoms or Babesia symptoms, the majority of those symptoms are due to too many cytokines, okay? Yeast also can trigger that excess cytokines. Now, when you start killing yeast, the act of killing yeast will trigger the immune system to see those dead bug parts, and it will react by having something called a Herxheimer reaction, which makes more cytokines. Okay. So often you'll see a worsening of symptoms as you start to treat yeast. And so that's partly what I'm hearing here, I think, is that your quote unquote panic attacks have gotten worse since starting to treat the yeast. Am I understanding that correctly?
Yeah. Let's see. I started this on what's today? The 20th. I actually had a panic attack before, so I lapsed. So I'm so hesitant of prescriptions. Like I like to do the like total natural route. And
Mhm.
we talked about the different yeast protocols and whether or not to go the herbal or the prescription route. And she
Yeah.
convinced me this is good, but it took me like a week of nothing, like doing no protocols except for my Cryptopolis tea and
Right.
my Chunca Piedra and my Cistus incanus. Like that's my daily tea. I just
Right.
always do.
Right.
Ashwagandha and a few others I learned from you. Um, but yeah, I stopped everything, like no silver, nothing. And that's when I started feeling the anxiety, like the body type, like everything just starting to swell up. And I was like, man, I feel
Right.
like I am losing it.
So,
And then, yeah, it
all right. So
did.
a couple thoughts for you. One thing I would make sure that you're doing as you're treating for the yeast is to do some things to control cytokines because cytokine excess creates a lot of instability. Okay.
Yeah.
So I like working with a couple things. One is curcumin. And so I like using, and the product I like for that is a Thorne product called curcumin phytosome.
Okay.
So it's a 500 milligram pill. The bottle's a little misleading. They say 1,000 milligrams, but it's the serving size of two pills is 1,000 milligrams. But each of their bottles has 500 milligram pills in it. Okay, I just want to be clear about that. But
Okay.
so you want to do one pill 3 times a day that gets inside of white blood cells and decreases their cytokine production. Okay.
Okay.
Second thing I would consider doing, especially since this is triggered so much in you, is I would get on some glutathione. A liposomal variety of glutathione. Liposomal means it's microscopically wrapped in fat to increase its absorption. Problem with glutathione is it isn't really absorbed well unless they prepare it right. Okay. And the product I like for that because they've got good data showing really good absorption, increased levels in your cells. And that is a product by Research Nutritionals, which is called Trifortify. And that's Trifortify, Trifortify.
Okay.
And that I would do a teaspoon a day on that. Okay. And that's just to
Okay.
kind of put a lid on some of the Herx symptoms you may be having, as well as just the overproduction of cytokines. Okay. Now, the reason you could be having some of these, what quote unquote panic attacks here, is due to some instability or imbalance in your adrenaline, anti-adrenaline system. Okay. And sometimes infections like tick-borne infections cause that instability. Sometimes yeast can cause that instability. In one form, this instability is called POTS. You may have heard the word POTS before, which stands for paroxysmal orthostatic tachycardic syndrome. Basically, what it means is you get these huge adrenaline surges because there's not a good regulation between adrenaline and anti-adrenaline. Get these huge adrenaline surges, and it makes you feel panicky. It can even wake you in the middle of the night. And that surge of adrenaline can make your heart race, can give you facial flushing, can give you cold sweats, even make you black out. Okay. So this sounds like an adrenaline, anti-adrenaline imbalance,
Okay.
likely because of the underlying infections, but maybe made worsened here because of cytokine excess. Okay. All right.
Okay.
Now, one thing, if these things are really overwhelming to you, you may want to talk to one of your doctors about temporarily until you get infections under control, and getting the infections under control will eventually get balance between your adrenaline and anti-adrenaline. You may want to get on a type of prescription heart medicine called a beta blocker. So what beta blockers do is they limit some of the effects of the adrenaline surge, causing you to have the high heart rate, the flushing, even the cold sweat. Okay, so you can manage that pharmaceutically if you need to, but just realize the underlying way you're going to get these symptoms under control, which I will call, you're basically having an adrenaline anti-adrenaline imbalance, or some people call that imbalance in the sympathetic parasympathetic nervous system. Some people call it POTS. But the main way you're going to get those under control is just get your infections under control. Okay. All right.
Okay.
All right. And then, I unless she found parasites on your GI map, did she find parasites on your GI map?
Negative for any parasites, but I mean, I had my own farm for 8 years in Oregon,
Yeah.
raised my own livestock, sheep, lived
Yeah.
on well of water, traveled out in India, drank out of wild streams.
You're
I mean,
answering all the
I
you're answering all the questions I was about ready to ask you.
I literally lived in the wilderness for
I
three
got it.
months backpacking. Like I feel like as dirty internally as goo.
Have you be, related to where you've lived or your less developed world travel, have you ever gotten traveler's diarrhea at all in there?
Bad,
Okay.
bad. Thought I was gonna die in India. They told me not to eat the food on the streets, and I just didn't listen because the smoothie looked so good,
Okay. All
and
right.
yeah, I was like deathly ill, both ends, same time, dying.
And then what kind of GI symptoms do you have these days?
I'm pretty much just always bloated. I used to have loose stools every single day.
Okay.
Now so much gas, so
Yeah.
gassy,
Yeah.
just like
I got
super
it.
uncomfortable all the time,
Yeah.
especially after eating, unless I like don't eat. And then it's like, okay, like I don't like eating because it's uncomfortable. Yeah.
So in these kind of situations, so usually when I've got somebody that has your kind of history, which is, the possibility of intestinal yeast, and then lots of world travel with the possibility of having picked up parasites from, living on the farm on well water, international travel where God knows what you got that gave you the diarrhea. Okay. What I usually will do is try to clear yeast first. And if I clear yeast and all GI related symptoms go away, I stop right there. All right.
Okay.
But if not, then I have to wonder if parasites are an issue. Okay. Now, at that point, I start asking my patient, have you ever traveled third world? Have you ever had a farm? Have you all these things you just told me, right?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
bad.
yeah. And if
That's,
I've got
that's
somebody says yes to all of those things, I do have to wonder about intestinal parasites. And you want to get the intestinal parasites out too, because they become a source of cytokine excess as well. All right.
Mhm.
Now, a word about parasite testing, it's pretty poor. You can be loaded with parasites and the testing will come back negative. Okay. So I do like to try to see if I can identify parasites by doing a GI map or doing regular stool testing. And the reason I do that is if they identify a certain parasite, I want to choose the thing I'm going to give you to kill parasites based on what that is. All right.
Mhm.
But if it came back negative and yet you still have high risk of having parasites, I would treat. And there's a couple ways I would do it. So tinidazole is really limited in its scope of the types of parasites it hits. It's not a universal kills all kinds of
Mhm.
parasites, okay?
It's like
So
Giardia. It's
yeah,
like
yeah,
basically for just which I've had
right, right,
in
right.
the Blue Ridge Mountains. Got Giardia. That was not
Yeah.
fun.
So in these situations, what I like to do is the prescription universal kills everything anti-parasite is a medication called Alinea. And it can be expensive. It's 500 milligram pill, and you wind up doing one pill twice a day, and I do it for 3 weeks. And the reason I do it for 3 weeks is you want to hit living, and then you want to still have the stuff on board to hit any eggs that got laid and then hatch. And that's
Right.
usually our 3 week process. Okay. Now, some of
Yeah.
you may have heard of Alinea being used by some people in Lyme to treat cyst and to treat other forms of Lyme. I don't find it to be that useful in Lyme, but I want to let you know it's what it's approved for is it's a very potent anti-parasitic that kills about every kind of parasite. Okay. Now, if that is not an option, if you can't do that, then another thing to consider doing would be to use an anti-parasitic herbal mix that has black walnut in it. Your main anti-parasitic, universal parasitic from the herbal medicine world is black walnut, also known as Hughlin nigrans. And it just so happens that Hughlin nigrans actually is an agent you can use for persister borrelia and growing borrelia. And I think it hits persister bartonella as well too. So it's something we can use for other purposes as well too. Okay. And then there's other anti-parasitic herbs. Some of the volatile oils like oregano can sometimes hit parasites. So what I like to do if I'm going to wind up using something herbal, I like looking at a product that has a number of things in it: garlic, black walnut, volatile oils. And the one product that I has all of those that I've had success using in treating parasites is a product called biocidin. It's made by a company called Biocidin Botanicals. Now, biocidin also has useful activity against biofilms. We use it in Lyme to break down biofilms sometimes. It also has the ability to kill Lyme as well too. It's got pretty good ability to do that. So it's one of these herbal products, got 10 different herbs in it that can do a lot of things, okay? But if you're going to use it to treat for intestinal parasites or to manage intestinal parasites, there's three forms it comes. It comes as a pill, comes as a liquid drops, and comes as a liposomal pump bottle. Liposomal means it's going to increase absorption into your bloodstream. That's liposomal is good if you're using it to manage tick-borne infections because you want it to get absorbed, okay? But if you're trying to use it to manage something intestinally, you want it to stay in the intestine. So either use the pills or use the drops, basically. Okay. The drops
Okay.
would be 10 drops twice a day, and the pills would be one pill 3 times a day, I believe. Okay. All right. So anyhow, that's a lot of stuff I just said here, but what I
I
want,
know.
yeah, but I do think, yeah, parasites, I would agree with going after that. I could see why she might want to work on clearing that first, just to get your intestines working better and get the cytokine stuff that's coming on from there. Okay. And I do think it would be okay to clean out your intestines first. Try to manage your cytokines to help decrease some of these symptoms you're having. Consider getting on a beta blocker to limit some of this imbalance in your adrenaline, anti-adrenaline system, and then eventually get to managing the tick-borne infections. That's kind of I think that's how I would approach you if you were in my practice. Okay.
So don't start your herbal Lyme protocol yet. You're saying
I
don't
think
even like with this yeast
right.
killer moment. Don't
I,
touch it.
I think you've got a big source of cytokines in your intestines because of yeast and because of parasites. And I think I would focus on clearing that level out first. It's kind of hard to go after all, but at the same time, because if you start going, um, you need to get the gut taken care of so that you stop leaky gut. You get better absorption of medications, you get better absorption of nutrients. You want to clean that system out first. And if you start adding in at this point, especially with the yeast, you start adding in herbal antibiotic germ killers for tick-borne infections. That's going to make it harder to get over the yeast as well, too. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So good. So follow the plan. Follow the plan. Kill the yeast for this month, and then kill the parasites next month if my gut's not good, and then start the herbal Lyme
Yeah.
protocol. I just want to follow whatever's on the
Yeah.
guide.
I
Your
think
guide.
I think that sounds reasonable for your situation. Yeah.
And then yeah, the heart thing. The
Yeah.
heart is annoying. It's just driving me nuts.
Yeah, that again, I think that'll get under, even if you didn't take a beta blocker or do anything else, as you get your germs under control, those symptoms should start getting better for you. Okay.
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 Wonderful.
All
Thank
right.
you so much, Dr.
Yeah.
Ross.
Yeah.
You're an angel. Thank you.
Good luck to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anyone have any follow-up questions or comments about what Jillian and I were just discussing? All right. All right. Let me move on here then. All right. Hi, Tracy. Let's see. A loved one has to discontinue a regimen of rifampin, clarithromycin, and methylene blue for the 3Bs due to persistent gut distress. Her doctor has since put her on just doxycycline while planning to add other elements slowly, but her brain fog and her rash have been increasing, so I'm wondering, could that be a side effect of the doxy? Hmm. Um, I guess I would need to know some more information. Like, is this person, is your family member itching a lot? Um, I would need to know what the rash looks like. Can you answer some of those questions for me?
Sure. Can you hear me? Am I
Yeah,
unmuted? Okay.
yeah,
The rash looks to me, she sent me a photo a lot like, and I'm gonna pronounce this maybe wrong, petechiae or petechiae.
yeah, yeah,
Um, and it's kind of all over her legs.
yeah.
I don't think it's itching. Um, And I think she's trying to hunt down a dermatologist. She's in kind of a rural area, so it's a
Yeah.
little difficult to get care. Um,
Were these so petechiae, everyone, looks like little red dots basically on your skin, and sometimes can come about as part of autoimmune reaction. So,
mm,
Tracy, are you aware, did she have petechiae before starting doxycycline?
I think she had some, yes, when she was on those three antibiotics, the doctor, and she was having some rash, but
Yeah,
since stopping those antibiotics, and I didn't realize he'd switched her to Doxy. I thought he'd just stopped her on
yeah,
everything. But she
yeah,
just told me recently she's been on Doxy as kind of like a placeholder until
yeah,
they can get anything else in there.
yeah,
Um, so I don't know. I wondered
yeah.
if
I guess it's hard for me to evaluate somebody through somebody else.
yeah,
You can
yeah.
appreciate it. And it would be hard for me to say without getting a lot more details of by talking with her directly. So I mean I appreciate you're asking on behalf of your family member. I don't think I'm gonna be able to give a decent response here.
Okay. Well, is there more, like, if I can go back and get some questions answered, could you want to tell me what you'd want to know?
This just sounds more complicated. The issue is with the petechiae, is she having some autoimmune reaction either to one of the antibiotics or is it a manifestation of her underlying tick-borne infections?
Right.
Again, it gets tricky to figure this one out.
Okay. All right.
All right. Good luck to your family member there, Tracy.
Thank you.
Yeah. David says hi from Chico, California. Hi, David. Hello, Kay. Let's see. I'm having a terrible time with Babesia die-off from azithromycin and Mepron, my brain and fatigue. I've tried to reduce the dose or skip days, but this is going slowly. What recommendations do you have? Have you heard of anyone getting so bad off with Babesia that oxygen got down to 91, resting heart rate 115? I've had so many bad symptoms for a long time. Thank you. All right. So I'll come to that second part of your question here in a minute. So how long, Kay, how long have you been on the azithromycin and the Mepron, and what is the dosing you've been doing?
I was on 500 milligrams of zithromycin for maybe a couple of months, and the Mepron I got about a month ago.
A month ago. Okay. And when you were first on the azithromycin, were you having a lot of brain fog issues and fatigue or not?
Yeah, my last known bite was about 2 years ago, so I knew stuff was going on, and I was trying cryptolepis because I could feel the air hunger for a
Yeah.
while, and then
Yeah.
everything just went so downhill. I've been checked out left and right for heart and lungs, all this tests and everything.
Yeah. Did everything get a lot worse when you added in the Mepron then?
The first, after I had 2 doses the first day of Mepron, my oxygen level jumped up and my heart rate went down. Not perfect, but it was amazing. But I do notice when I take more of it, it can, because the die off, it can make that happen again.
Yeah. So I want to make sure I understand this. Is your brain function and your fatigue worse since you started the Mepron, or it just doesn't seem to be helping it?
Oh, I think the first 2 days I grabbed my head and I said, "Oh, my brain." I could feel it in there working. So, yeah,
Yeah.
I think it is work. And that's why when I've cut down on the dose or skipped a little bit, it's to try to get my brain functioning a little better.
Right. So Mepron has a long elimination half-life, meaning if you skip a dose, it may not really affect too much the actual levels in you. So, I'll say more in a minute. I'm looking up how long it takes this stuff to get out of you, which is we use something called an elimination half-life to figure that out. Where's my drug directory here?
Yeah, can I say that one day when I skipped it for 3 days, I was amazed because I was upright for 7 hours getting stuff done for the first time in months.
Yeah,
So on the third day I could feel, wow.
oh yeah, this is long. This is so the elimination half-life is 67 to 77 hours. All right.
Okay.
And to put that in context, it takes 4 elimination half-lives for something to get completely out of you. All right. So let's see, 4 times 67. What does that look like? What? That doesn't make any sense. Oh, that's hours. Okay, then divided by 24. So it takes 11 days for this stuff to get out of you, all right? Now, that doesn't mean it's like staying up here and all of a sudden it goes gone. It's tapering down over those 7 days. So how many days before you started to have some improvement being off of it?
The first time I skipped it, it was on the third day that I was amazed I could be upright and doing things.
Yeah, yeah. What you might want to do is there's no right way to do what I'm about ready to say to you. And what I'm trying to figure out is how do we get your blood levels drop down to a level you can tolerate better, and then how do you maintain it? Okay. So one thing you might want to consider doing is just stay off of it for 3 days again. And when you go back on it, half dose from what you were doing before.
I've done some of that, and it seems like I didn't feel as good on the 3 days off,
Mhm.
but I was taking a lower dose.
Yeah.
So I may not have killed off enough to feel the difference then.
Um, I'm not sure if I understand what you just said. So
Yeah, if I was taking a lower dose and then stopped 3 days, maybe I didn't feel as good because I wasn't killing off as much before.
maybe not. I don't know. I mean, it's an experiment to figure out what's a dose you can tolerate but still moves you forward.
Okay.
And what I'm
Anything,
suggesting is I think the regular dosing of the Mepron might be too much. And one way to decrease the dose is stop it for a few days and then come in at half a dose. That's one way to do it, basically. The,
okay.
the other thing, and it may be that, this is a killing reaction, especially if you had more headaches, you have more brain and fatigue. I would think that's a killing reaction, okay? But rarely people also have side effects. Mepron can give headaches as a side effect, for instance. And so if you were to try to cut the dose in half, again, by stopping for a few days and then try it at half dose and see how you tolerate, and you're still not tolerating, then you may want to consider a different medication and see if you can tolerate a different medication better. And different medication that you could use in place of Mepron might be something called tafenoquine, or its older brother sister called primaquine. Those might be options for you to consider as well, too.
Okay. Is there anything, and I heard what you said earlier to the first caller, and I got some tips there for cytokines and everything.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
there, it's like I wanted to stick a tube in my brain and drain it.
yeah,
Is there any other
yeah.
way to detox your brain?
Yeah, so there's two. If many of you are aware that I have my Ross, Lyme, and Tick-borne diseases support protocol, okay, and there are a number of things I think anyone should be on throughout treatment because it isn't just an issue of killing your germs. You want to try to create better balance in the body and deal with the effect of cytokines and get your immune system working better, okay? So key things that some of the key components in my Ross Lyme support protocol is get sleep. 7 to 9 hours sleep a night. If you have to use medications or herbs to do that, get sleep. 7 to 9 hours of sleep helps lower cytokines. Okay, so that's step one in my protocol. There's a number of other steps in there, and I'll show you all in a minute. But one of the other big steps is doing things to specifically lower cytokines throughout your treatment, not just when you're herxing, but throughout your treatment. And that would be to do the curcumin I mentioned earlier, and if somebody's really having a hard time, add in the liposomal glutathione, that trifortified that I talked about too. Okay, so
Okay.
those are I would do that regardless of whether you're feeling poorly. And definitely if you're feeling poorly, yeah, I would consider doing those things.
Okay, great. And you've talked about I can't think of it right now because my brain's not working. Not resveratrol, but another thing similar. Oh, Japanese knotweed.
Yeah.
And that, when I took resveratrol, I felt tender breasts like I have not had in forever. And
Hmm.
I'm a DES daughter. I'm supposed to avoid estrogen.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
is Japanese knotweed okay for me?
I haven't. So in terms of something that has estrogenic effect that I have used in treating tick-borne infection, cat's claw. Cat's claw, that is one of the known things is to have an estrogen effect. I haven't seen that occur in Japanese knotweed. I'm not saying it's not occurring to you, okay? I just haven't seen it occur, nor have I seen any literature that suggests that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, yeah, okay. And then in terms of this, I have seen people get lower oxygens when they're killing Babesia. I have seen that happen before. And if your oxygen levels went down, the heart is going to respond by trying to move more oxygen deficient blood through the body so that there's still oxygen flowing through the body by having a higher heart rate. Okay. So if you have low oxygen levels, a response of the body is going to be is to kick up the heart rate, basically.
And that was before I got treatment. I had probably 7 doctors who wouldn't listen to me saying I have Babesia air hunger. And
Yeah.
then I looked it up and I got it, and that's when that happened.
Yeah.
I mean,
And
it was that bad to start with.
so it could even be that as part of your regular symptoms, yes, but also sometimes that will get worse as you start treating as well too.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. I just want to do a quick screen share here. Good luck to you. I'm going to do a screen share and then I'll take questions on that, what we were just talking about. So again, this is my store, and what was I going to do? Oh, the 2 things I'm going to show you here. Number 1, my Ross protocol. Okay. And basically in here, oh, let me move this out of the way. Okay, there. So over here is the whole
I'm listening to the tick guide.
What now? Oh, somebody's talking. Mute your microphone, who's ever talking there. We just heard you. All right. So anyhow, over here on this side is the whole navigation menu. So I talk about various things that a person should do. And I'm not sure. Hold on a minute. It's the first time I'm looking at this. Oh, okay. So you want to I have to go back to my designers. I didn't re-look at this. As you know, I just launched this new site. Part 1 was not to get sleep. I apologize. I'm looking at this for a first time and it's all out of order. So part 1 is supposed to be get sleep. Okay. So you want to go ahead and do steps to get sleep. You do boy, this is messed up. I would look through here and you're going to see essential steps. I'm just going to have to do it that way. And I'm going to have to go back and reorder this. I thought I had looked at this before I launched the site, but look at the sections here on getting sleep. There's one that I have on cytokine control. I would definitely look at that. Okay. And then the other thing I would look at is in terms of yeast, I think everyone should look to make sure they have yeast control, because yeast is one of the big factors that triggers too many cytokines in you. Okay.
Yes, and I could take 4 different things throughout the night to try to sleep before, and since I got this medicine, I'm sleeping good long nights. So
Good.
wonderful.
Good. All right. All right. Take care, Kay.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Does anyone have any follow-up comments or questions about what Kay and I were just talking about?
I'd like to ask her, Marty, what she uses for sleep.
Kay.
It's gotten better since I got on the zithromycin and Mepron. I mean, before I would take Benadryl, and later on I take more Benadryl, and later on I just try all kinds of different things, and I was getting very little sleep.
And so what is it now you're on, I may ask?
It's for Babesia. It's a zithromycin and Mepron.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Did anyone else have any follow-up questions or comments there? All right, let's move on. Hello, SM. Let's see. Should I stop taking methylene blue before I take hygienic tests for 3Bs? I will stop the herbals before, but do I also need to stop methylene blue? You don't need to stop any of them. So let me try to clarify. And by that, any of them, I mean, I would not stop your herbal antibiotics and I would not stop methylene blue. And here's why. So when you're doing the hygienics, well, let me clarify. Are you getting the immunoblot test done through hygienics, or are you doing a different type of test through hygienics?
I know the doctor does the immunoblot, does the IgG and the IgM.
Yeah. So here's what my comment is. So the immunoblot is a test that measures whether you're making antibodies against the infection. Okay. And so that is what is known as an indirect test. We're trying to see, is there immune system evidence that the germ is in you, but we're not really looking at the germ under the microscope. Okay. If we were looking at the germ under the microscope, that's a direct test. Okay. So indirect tests are actually improved if you try killing the germs before you get the test done. Because when you kill germs, the immune system responds more strongly, makes more antibodies. Okay. All right. So in the case of if they're only going to be doing immunoblots with you, which is looking for IgG and IgM antibodies, keep taking your antibiotic, herbal antibiotics, and methylene blue beforehand. Okay. Now, if on the other hand, your doctors, as part of the testing, are going to be doing a fish test for Bartonella or Babesia, or doing a PCR test for Bartonella or Babesia, those are what we call direct tests. We're wanting to, it's a way of measuring or seeing living germs that are actually in you. We're directly detecting them, okay? So PCR is a method we use to amplify the genetic material of the germs. And when we amplify it, we can see it better. And then what a fish test is we actually take your blood and then we put, we tag the DNA of Bartonella or the DNA of Babesia with a fluorescent marker so we can see it under the microscope. So that's a direct test too, okay? So when you're doing a direct test, you want to make sure you see the germs. You want to make sure you haven't killed them recently. You want to have a lot in you so they can be detected in the test, all right? So if you're just getting immunoblots done, which is an antibody test, an indirect test, it's going to be helped by doing your herbal and prescription antibiotics beforehand. But if they're going to be doing fish testing or PCR as part of this, then those will not be helped by doing herbal and prescription antibiotics beforehand. Okay.
My doctor usually does both. At
Okay.
this point, the last time I saw the doctor, we knew that I still had some Bartonella left in
Yeah.
me. And
Yeah.
but we're checking to see if we still need to treat the Babesia also. Because we think that that's taken care of, and Borrelia, we think that's taken care of.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
So I would clarify with your doctor, are we doing, is it just immunoblot we're doing, or are we doing the fish and the PCRs? If you're doing fish and PCRs, don't use the antibiotics beforehand, even the methylene blue.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome. And by antibiotics, I meant herbal antibiotics as well, too. Okay.
Okay. And what about the methylene blue?
Methylene blue is an antibiotic. So again, if they're going to be doing fish or PCR testing, I would stop that before you have the testing done too.
And for what, 2 weeks ahead of time?
I would probably do 3 weeks.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Okay. Good luck to you.
Thanks.
Does anyone have any follow-up questions to what we were just talking about? All right, let's move on. Hello, David. Let's see. I recently received my spray bottle of KPV from your store. I'm wondering if I jumped too soon after hearing you talk about the benefits of KPV on several recent webinars. I'm partway through your best oral peptide guide. Having recently been diagnosed with mold toxicity, I'm finding the article very informative. Besides mold toxicity, I have all the usual suspects: leaky gut, SIBO, poor motility, neuropathy, mast cell activation, full body inflammation, immune system dysfunction, intestinal dysfunction, brain fog, right upper quadrant pain, and sarcopenia. I've been, everyone, sarcopenia means loss of muscle mass, and it gets, some of that muscle mass loss gets replaced by having fat grow into your muscles, actually. I've been taking 4.5 milligrams of low-dose naltrexone for 7 months, along with 1 milligram of ketoprofen for the Mast Cell Activation Syndrome. I was planning on taking KPV with both. Given all my conditions listed above, would BPC be more beneficial to me than the KPV at this time? the Swiss Army knife comment resonated with me. Could I use both together? Have you any thoughts about Thaenabiotic, which is a postbiotic supplement, basically sterilized fecal microbiota transplant in a capsule? My ND wants me to try them. Yeah. Okay. So I'll be glad to talk about all that. So, usually, so I understand you have a mast cell activation syndrome, and that's usually when you have it, that is strongly influencing a lot of your symptoms, okay? And I do like low dose naltrexone can help with that. The ketoprofen is good because it stabilizes your mast cells so they tend not to be as reactive and release histamines. In addition, ketoprofen is an antihistamine, so it will block histamines that are getting released by your mast cells, all right? So I like that you're doing that too. So you've got some pretty strong coverage at this point for your activated mast cells. And given the rest of your symptoms, if I was treating you, I would go for BPC 157 first, because you get help with both, some help with stabilization of your mast cells. It can do some, all right? But you also get good balance, improvement in immune function, which can help decrease a lot of the inflammation. It can help repair injured tissues like brain, nerves, and muscles. And so it's a good next step. I would let you know that both BPC 157 and KPV have some weak potential of being antibiotic. And so I usually don't like starting both at the same time until I have a better feel of how a person's tolerating them. And so I would probably go with the BPC 157 first, try it as one pill twice a day, give it a month or two and see how you're doing. And if you're not getting far enough along, then I think KPV is a reasonable option, which is, it's good anti-inflammatory. KPV is great at stabilizing mast cells, also very good anti-inflammatory as well too. Okay, all right. So that's where I would probably go with that. And then in terms of the Thaenabiotic, so Thaenabiotic is basically made by a company that was founded out of Oregon, actually, some naturopaths. And what they do is they collect poop from living donors, living poop from living donors, and then they sterilize the poop. They heat it so that what's left is no living germs, but rather all of the other components that we find within our microbiome. So it's got a lot of messenger signals. It's got a bunch of good things that help your good bacteria in the gut work well. It has all the signaling chemicals that tell your brain to work well, your immune system to work well. And so it's a very good postbiotic, but it does not populate your intestines with anything, okay? And where I think a role for Thaenabiotic is actually I think there's two places I would use it. One is at the end of treatment. I think it's a good option to consider at the end of treatment when you're trying to recover from all the antibiotics and their effect within the intestines. Even if you've done a good job during treatment by being on probiotics, by eating a vegetarian diet that support or a plant forward diet that supports your healthy microbiome, by being on good prebiotics, by being on polyphenols, all those good things I write about how you support your gut. Even so, at the end, I think it's useful to replenish, rehab your gut, and I think Thaenabiotic is a reasonable way to do it. Okay. The other place that I would use Thaenabiotic, I think, is if I had a person that had repeated intestinal yeast infections and we just could not stabilize their gut. And no matter what we did, every time we stopped the antifungals, the yeast would come back. I would want to do probably add an antibiotic in that situation because, again, it has all these good chemical messengers that help support good bacteria to do better in the intestines to kind of keep that yeast from coming back. So that would be another situation I might look at doing that as well too. Okay. All right. So that's a lot of stuff I just said here. Does David, did that answer your questions for you?
Hi, Dr. Ross. Yes, it certainly did. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
You kind of confirmed my thinking on the Thana, that it's something I thought probably I should be using at the end of the treatment.
Yeah. That's I think within my gut health guide. I'll show it to you here in a minute. I think I do have that is one of the things I suggest at the end of treatment in there too. I think I mentioned it in that article. I'll show that to you here in a minute. Okay. All right.
The only other thing I'm doing right now for my leaky gut, I read a lot of comments on a site about something called glutagenics by a company called Metagenics.
Yeah.
And it's aloe, L-glutamine, and if I can pronounce this right, deglycerinated licorice.
Yeah. Deglycerated licorice. Yeah.
Glycerate, yes. That helped the first day I took it. It's great. It
Oh,
really is
good.
making my
Good.
gut better. On
Good.
top of that, daily I take Tudka. I take a vitamin C 1000 with zinc. I'm taking hydroxychloroquine that my rheumatologist gave me. That's, yeah, sort of helping with the inflammation.
Yeah.
Full body inflammation's gotten better. I take a vitamin D3. I'm taking Zyrtec and Pepsid as an H1, H2 blocker, along with my ketotifen.
Yeah.
And I'm taking Pectisol as just a light binder.
Yeah.
I have a tube of trifortified liposomal that I got from you. I have not started it. At what point should I start that?
You might consider doing it now because it's going to help lower the inflammation cytokines, which may help with some of that full body inflammation you're having.
Okay.
It can also be a vital part of detox as well, too.
Perfect. That's really the next thing I need to work on is getting my my mold toxins under control.
Yeah.
So like when my gut goes bad, my head kind of follows along with it.
Yeah, the gut is kind of the key to everything.
Sure is. Well,
All
thank
right.
you for answering this.
You're welcome, David. Yep. I see that we got a couple of hands up here. I got Rachel. I'll take you first.
Can you hear me, Dr. Ross?
Who's talking?
Rachel?
Oh yeah, now I can hear you. Yeah, now I see who's talking. So, yeah, okay. Hi, Rachel.
Hi. So I actually had wrote a question
Mhm.
about the BPC 157.
Sure.
And you were talking about that, right?
Yeah, you can. So yeah, you can ask something about that.
Okay. So I was reading the other day about people that need to like lose weight, and I was just diagnosed with extremely high blood pressure.
Mhm.
I was at my oncology office a couple weeks ago, and my blood pressure was 190 over 110.
Wow.
Which is insane. So I ended up having to go to the ER, and I'm on blood pressure medication. But that when I read all the things that does for you, it just was amazing to me. So I didn't know if that was okay to take with having those problems.
I personally would not hesitate to use it. I went from what you just described to me, and again, you're just giving me a snapshot, right? So, but
Right.
I don't see a reason not to. Again, you may want to talk that over with your doctor for sure too, but I don't see anything you told me. I don't see it as a reason not to use the BPC 157.
Okay. And can that cause any die-off?
It can.
Okay, because I can tell.
It can. Usually when I'm adding BPC 157 in is usually about 6 months or so into treatment, or I've already knocked the derm down load down somewhat. Then I might add in BPC 157 for all its support qualities. And I think rarely, it's rare that I have seen people get Herx reactions when I do it that way, which is get some germ load control first by working on your tick-borne infections months before you add in a BPC 157.
Okay. And yes, I've been doing your the cryptolepis and
Yeah,
that so for quite a long time. So okay, well good. Thank you. And I'm glad to know that. I appreciate all you do.
you're welcome. Take care.
Thank you
Mhm.
too.
Yeah, Tracy, I see your hand up there too.
Yeah, just a follow-up question about ketotifen.
Yeah.
Wondering how would you rank it among mast cell stabilizers?
Hmm.
There's the H1 and H2 blockers. There's the luteolin and the quercetin and the cromolyn, and like, do you find, how do you feel ketotifen stacks up? Is like, should it be tried earlier or later?
So my starting point always is to start with quercetin, with or without luteolin. I usually like, because I find that you can get pretty good control using those too, okay? But when those don't work as a stabilizer, okay, I'm just talking mast cell stabilizer, okay? If those are not working well enough, then I think it's reasonable next to go to ketotifen. So it might be like, try a luteolin and quercetin for a month. And if you're not seeing reasonable effects, then go with the ketotifen. I think the ketotifen may be a little bit more potent than they are. But it also has an expense. You've got to go through a compounding pharmacy. But I tend to go with the herbals for that reason, okay? Now keep in mind, I like always in my mast cell activation to try to stabilize mast cells first, okay? But for people that are having a lot of excess histamine reactions going on, like rashes, asthma acted up, a lot of intestinal issues, in those kind of situations, I would be pretty quick to add in my histamine blockers, like a Zyrtec, for instance, and I might even go ahead and use if the Zyrtec is not working well enough, then I might get into some of the stomach antacids that have antihistamine effects as well too. Okay, that's kind of where I would go with that. But ketotifen, especially for people with severe reactions, if pretty quickly the luteolin and a quercetin are not working, then I would go ahead and add in the ketotifen.
Okay, thank you. Before cromolyn.
Cromolyn is mainly keep in mind, cromolyn, there's two ways. You can put it up the nose or you can take it as a pill and it gets into the intestines, okay? And it is a local mast cell stabilizer. It's not a systemic mast cell stabilizer, okay? So it's going to stabilize mast cells where you put it. So either up your nose or in your intestinal tract. So I might use cromolyn if they've got a lot of GI symptoms as part of their mast cell activation, gassiness, bloating. I might use the cromolyn in that situation, but not for the whole body systemic stuff because it's not going to touch it.
Okay, thank you. That's helpful.
Yeah. Good luck, Tracy.
Yeah.
All right. Does anyone else have any follow-up questions there? All right. So I want to just show a couple things to you here. All right. So get that out of the way. All right. So take a look in my Lymology guides here. Again, this is what replaced my Treat Lyme by Marty Ross MD site. It's all consolidated in here into my store now. Okay. And if you're wanting information about peptides in general, I think I have it under immune system here. Yeah, there you go. This is my peptides article, okay? The best oral peptide guide for Lyme, tick-borne infections, and mold toxicity. And in here, I basically describe the different ways that peptides can work. And then I break down what they actually are. And then down here at the bottom, I have a whole guide on how you would use them and how you would build a plan of using them. Okay, so that's what we were discussing here just a little bit ago. And then in terms of gut health and ways to support your intestines throughout treatment, let's see here. Where's my stomach? There we go. This article here, Your Guide to a Healthy Intestinal Microbiome, even on antibiotics, is pretty extensive, okay? I got a lot of background section here, and I even, because it's so extensive, I wrote a PDF version, which you could download here, all right? But take a look at this. It's loaded with information about what you can do to support your gut. And I'm just scrolling down here because I do believe I have a section about Thaenabiotic in here, if I'm right. Yeah, here. So gut rehab at the end of care. And I talk about using a postbiotic supplement, and I use the name Thaenabiotic in here. Okay, that's what I was talking about right there. Okay, all right. All right. I thought I had put it in there. Let's see here. Okay, Noah, let's see. Hi, Marty. How would you treat slight yeast overgrowth, several low good bacteria in the gut, Citrobacter species, count of 10 billion, and Bartonella all in one? I figure yeast is first, but I'm not sure how the gut dysbiosis factors into treating the Bartonella. All right. So I would definitely, I like building in my yeast treatments pretty much up front, or my yeast management pretty much up front. Okay. And if you have a lot of GI symptoms, what I would like to do in terms of my probiotic, so I like to work in terms of rehabbing the gut and supporting the gut, get yeast out. But the additional things you want to do is be on a probiotic. You also want to make sure you're increasing polyphenols, and which are colorful chemicals that are found in colorful fruits and vegetables. Polyphenols are one of the food sources for your good bacteria in your gut. And then the other thing you want to be on is prebiotics, which are fibers that bacteria also eat to support themselves and do well. Okay. All right. Now, in terms of choosing your probiotic, if you have a lot of leaky gut symptoms, gassiness and bloating, maybe even stomach cramping, where I'd like to have people go is to a probiotic that has Akkermansia in it, which is known to rebuild the lining, the mucin lining of your intestines, and also has a number of other bacteria in it that will help create butyrate. Butyrate is a substance that is the main fuel source for your intestinal cells, and it helps them heal back together to end the leakiness. Okay. And then the Akkermansia that would be in that product also promotes the growth of good bacteria as well too. All right. So a product that I carry at my store that has all of those things in it is a product called Metabolic Daily by Pendulum. And I would have a person take one or two of those one time a day. That's if you have a lot of GI symptoms. Okay. Now, if you don't have a lot of GI symptoms, I think you can get by using a spore forming probiotic, and that would be the spore forming probiotic products I have in my store is something called Core Biotic by Research Nutritionals is one product that I have. That would be one thing to look at as well too. Okay, all right, all right. Then in terms of supporting intestinal health, in terms of you need to be on polyphenols and prebiotics, and there's two ways to do that. One is you can supplement. You can take a polyphenol booster, for instance, 2 pills one time a day, and you can take a prebiotic like a product called Mega Pre, 2 pills one time a day. Or if you happen to be a person that has a pretty healthy diet and is using a plant forward diet, and say exclusive of animals, but plant forward, and you get a lot of good, healthy beans and legumes and fruits and vegetables, especially with a lot of color, you're getting adequate polyphenols through your diet, and you're getting adequate prebiotics through your diet then too. All right. So, if you can do that with your diet, great. Do not pay for a supplement to do those things. Okay. But if you're not doing that with your diet, then I suggest supplementing your polyphenols and your and the prebiotics as well too. All right. And that whole article that I just showed just a minute ago about how to, your gut health during treatment, that's the article, or during management, that's the article that you might want to take a look at to get more background on that. All right. So I hope I answered your question. Noah, did that handle it for you?
Mostly, yeah, but I guess I was also wondering specifically with regard to treating with the antibiotics. I guess you would do yeast first, but would you do yeast with the Citrobacter, or would you do them all maybe simultaneously?
So I don't think you necessarily need to be on anything to kill the Citrobacter. I think what you need to do is support the other bacteria in your intestines to take over territory from the Citrobacter. So that's why I would do a metabolic daily probiotic like I was talking with you about, and making sure you've got adequate polyphenols going in and adequate prebiotics going in too. And then I would go yeast, support your gut. After you've done yeast for about a month and you're getting under better control with the yeast, then I think you could add in infection, herbal or prescription antibiotics for your tick-borne infections.
Great, thank you.
All right. Good luck. David, I see your hand up there.
Yes, Dr. Ross, where did you say Metabolic Daily was from?
It's a company called Pendulum.
Oh, Pendulum.
Yeah,
I bought something from them already. I thought I recognized the name. Terrific.
Yeah.
Thanks.
And here, I'll show you. So we go here. All right. So the company is called Pendulum. And the product I'm talking about is this Metabolic Daily right here. And again, if you need to boost polyphenols, this is one way to do it, this Pendulum Polyphenol Booster. Okay. All right.
Terrific. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Go on here. Hello, John. Let's say, hey, Dr. Ross. Was interested in your thoughts on heavy metal detox when treating Lyme. And have you ever heard of Andy Cutler protocol? Yeah. So in terms of managing Lyme and all the variables that alter your health, I have found limited to no benefit of going after heavy metal toxicity. I'll just be honest with you. Okay. I think there's some, in the way I kind of look at tick-borne infections and dis-ease that comes about from tick-borne infections, is there's a lot of things that collectively add together to create the disease. Tick-borne infections, yeast, poor sleep, stress in your life, immune dysfunction, low thyroid, all these things can add up together to create imbalance, okay? And if you look at all these factors, you put them in a big rain barrel, the analogy would be like a rain barrel, okay? You eventually put enough of these factors in a rain barrel, it's going to overflow. Now, and when it's overflowing, that's disease, all right? Now, you don't have to empty the whole rain barrel to stop it from overflowing. You just got to pull enough things out so that it's not overflowing anymore, and basically your health is reestablished again. And so in the field of things that I have tried with people, I just have not found much benefit at all of doing heavy metal detox. Where I will consider doing it is if I've got somebody that has marked fatigue, that has not responded to a year and a half of management and all the mitochondrial support I might do with that, I might look at doing heavy metal detox then. Or if I've got somebody that is having a lot of neuropathy that isn't being repairable, I might then do a heavy metal test to see if they have heavy metal toxicity, and then I might go for it then. And I don't find, again, it's just because I just haven't seen benefit in these illnesses by going after it. Okay. Have I heard of the Andy Cutler protocol? Yeah. I don't know if it's right or wrong. I've heard of it. I usually, in my practice, when I was doing heavy metal detox work, I like working with oral agents, and the one I like using is something called DMSA. It has to be compounded, but I like it because it is very potent against getting lead and mercury out, which are the main two heavy metals that a lot of people have in them. And it has some abilities to handle some of the other heavy metals that will show up. But again, going after heavy metals, that's lower priority on my list just because of all the things that are going to give you a bang for your buck. That one is just low down. I just don't see much benefit from it. John, did that answer your question for you?
Yeah, absolutely. No, I really appreciate that. And I was wondering where in the tier level. And so I'm happy to, to hit the, the limes, and what I'm going to keep doing that instead of, again, branching off to find something else. I do have one follow-up thing.
Sure.
It's actually in response to your store. You don't have the Otoba bark in stock. Is that going to be restocked soon, or?
Yeah, I thought it was back in stock here. When did you look for it again?
Probably about 20 minutes ago.
That's time. Yeah, what's happened, unfortunately, so my supplier is Montana Pharmacy, right? And they're all the way up at the edge of Canada, in the far northwest corner of Canada. And they, where they're located, it's harder to get things in and out. And what's really gotten bad lately is the tariffs have killed them in terms of getting supplies to package and ship things out. And
Gotcha.
so we're dealing with problems of speed that I think is going to be corrected here soon. But no, it took us, we finally figured out what's going on. We're placing orders and it's taking them weeks to get to us right now. But I think they're going to be correcting that. But it was the tariffs that kind of screwed up my supply chain getting to you because they have a screwed up supply chain, basically. Okay. And
Gotcha.
unfortunately, I'm afraid we may start, we may start seeing that effect in other areas of my supplement store as well too. I think the tariffs may create some problems. Hopefully not, but we'll see. But it definitely has in this area.
Is there one you would recommend in the meantime, or no?
I think we're going to have, just so you know, probably in about 2 weeks. Well, I think a week and a half, we're going to be resupplied with that again. It's
Okay.
an order we've placed, but I think it's going to be about a week and a half before we get it. You could or try to order directly from Montana Pharmacy. Again, part of the reason they take time to get stuff to me is we put large orders in and they have to get it and package it. But for a
Oh,
single
gotcha.
bottle,
Okay.
they
Yeah.
might have a single bottle available for you.
Gotcha. Okay. Thanks, Doc.
Yeah. Good luck, John.
Thank you.
Yep. All right. Hello, Sapporo. Let's see. I've had Lyme and babysitting for 17 years. I've mostly recovered, but sleep continues to be a problem. Oh, wait a minute. Do you mean you've had Lyme and Babesia for 17 years? I wonder. Okay. Trying to figure that one out. All right, got it. That's an interesting typo, though. Okay, so I've had Lyme and Babesia for 17 years. I've mostly recovered, but sleep continues to be a problem. I wake at 3 a.m. or sometimes every 2 hours. I've tried every herbal and pharmaceuticals and they don't work. I get 5 hours of interrupted sleep. I'm exhausted every day, but push through. How can I get more sleep? That's a complicated topic. Um, so I want to talk about, this is not an easy solution. I'm going to give you some things to think about. Okay. So some of it starts with lifestyle modifications. And so here's some basic lifestyle modifications to do. Number one, do not nap during the daytime because when you nap, it decreases what's called sleep pressure, the need to sleep at night and get through the night. Okay. All right. Number two, stop all caffeine before noon. Caffeine has a half-life of about 6 to 7 hours, meaning even if you take it at noon, half of that dose of caffeine is still in you at 6 or 7 o'clock at night. And some of it, as you can imagine, is still going to be in you at 10 o'clock or so, and even at 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. All right. And in people with severe insomnia, sometimes it just makes sense just to eliminate caffeine altogether. Okay. Do not drink before bed, meaning alcohol. Alcohol may get you asleep, but it's horrible on keeping you asleep. All right. So you need to remove that. Make sure that your bedroom is a place that you use for sleeping, not work activities. Make it your sleep chamber, okay? And I mean, you can do your sexual activity there too, but I wouldn't do like work or anything else along those lines. All right, all right. Then make sure your room is dark, and if it is not dark, get a blackout covers to put over your eyes, a little eye mask, so that you don't have light interfering. Make sure that you choose the same time to try to go to sleep every night and stick to it. Because when you do that, it fits in best with your circadian rhythm. And we get help from the circadian rhythm helping to put you asleep as well, too. All right. Let's see. If you can have a cool room, people tend to sleep better in cool rooms than in warm rooms. And in fact, some people tend to sleep better. Now this may sound hard. Between 60 degrees and 65 degrees is probably the better temperatures to be sleeping at. But I mean, that may be hard to do, but I'm just letting you know a cool room, and ideally, even if you could get it to 60 to 65 at night, is going to help with sleep as well, too. All right. And then one of the big things to consider trying is something called cognitive behavioral therapy for sleep, or CPT for sleep. And it's in CBT, you work with a therapist that's trained in CBT, and it's to help you with the conversations that you have around sleep when you can't sleep, and to help you change your thinking approach to sleep and the reactivity we sometimes get when we have insomnia. And actually, it may sound kind of hokey, but the CBT has got some really um, positive things to be said about it. Okay. So it's not a simple thing. As you just noted, I just told you all kinds of things to you didn't even have anything to do with the drug. All right. And that's because it often is about the environment and the things you're doing around sleep that can be modified to give you some benefit. So those are some things that I would look at. Okay.
Okay, so can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello? You can hear me.
Yes.
Thank you. Yeah, so I've been dealing with this sleep issue probably for 10 plus years, and I've tried all of those things. I sleep in a separate bedroom than my husband. It's
Yeah.
dark. I do all of those things. I wear an eye patch, I wear, earplugs and so on. And, and I've done the cognitive behavioral stuff. I've tried, increasing my sleep pressure. And I
Yeah.
just sort of like get past that time. I usually go to bed at 10. And then
Yeah.
if I try to stay up till 11 or 12, I get a little tired, but I'm not sleepy. And then
Yeah.
my body just resets and say, okay, I'll just stay up.
Ah,
So I don't get that sleep pressure.
yeah.
And then
I'm
even I
sorry.
take,
Yeah.
Sonata or something, even in the middle of the night, it just doesn't even do anything.
Yeah.
The only thing that works kind of is if I take a little bit of clonazepam,
Yeah.
but they don't like to give that to me.
No, I mean, part of the problem with the benzodiazepines is we're starting to realize that chronic use of them, and this is something we didn't realize before, but we're starting to realize that regular use of them may lead to impairment of thinking down the road, actually, too. So keep that one in mind.
Yeah. So I take trazodone
Yeah,
and I take magnesium
yeah,
and I take gabapentin.
yeah.
And I can usually fall asleep, but at 2 or 3, I wake up and I'm just as alert as could be. I
Yeah,
could start the day, and then I've been doing this a long time, so I don't get upset. I just sort of like roll over, but then
yeah,
my brain starts going, thinking about what I got to do
right.
next day. And sometimes I
Yeah,
get up and write it down and go back to bed, and sometimes I
yeah.
doze a little bit, but I'm only getting about 5 to 6 hours of sleep.
Boy. Yeah, I'm sorry, I don't have a good answer for you. I mean, you're doing everything
Oh,
I know to do, and you've tried a lot of good drugs as well, too.
yeah.
I see, Ed, I see your hand up there. Did you have a comment here?
I was just going to say, for extending the sleep, low dose doxycyline.
Have you found that helpful for yourself?
And 10 milligrams is cheap. It comes as a 3 or a 6, but those are expensive.
Yeah,
The doxypin, you said doxypin?
The
yeah,
doxycyline 10 milligrams, really cheap, and it helps those
Yeah.
last 5 to 8
My
hours.
neuro See, my neurologist gave that to me and I didn't sleep. It just made me groggy and kind of out of it the next day and a little dizzy.
it's
Yeah, I
hard.
know.
Yeah. No, it
It's
sounds like you've
hard.
tried some great, you've done all the things, right? I mean, you really
I
have done
know.
the things. Yeah, yeah.
That thought that you would have the answer because I still take, low dosage of the, cryptoleptus and the cat's
Yeah,
claw, Japanese knotweed and all that. And I bought the ATP 360
yeah,
from your place. I've been on it maybe for 2 weeks.
yeah,
And I also bought the BCP 157. But I
yeah.
was just maybe is there anything else I can do to like kind of calm myself down during the day so that maybe I can sleep at night?
There's one other thing you might want to consider trying, and this is something I've learned of recently. I'll show you here. There is a device. This is a device. Okay. It's called Apollo Neuro, Apollo, and then Neuro. And it is basically, it was developed by a neurologist. In a lot of ways, it's a vagal nerve stimulator. And the way it works is it vibrates on your bones wherever you wear it. So you can wear it, I can put this band around and I can wear it like a watch. Okay. Like a watch. Okay, I'm trying to show you. You can wear it there. You can wear it on the underside of your wrist. You can put it down at your ankle. And they've developed certain vibration patterns that are designed to do certain things. So it can vibrate a certain pattern to calm anxiety. It can vibrate a certain way to keep you asleep at night. And the way that it could really work, so anyhow, if you were to get this, you're going to get an app on your phone, and it has, you can tell it whether you want to think clearly, and it will send a certain vibe pattern for you to think clearly. You can hit a button so that when you go down to bed at night, it will start to vibrate a sleep pattern to get you asleep, okay? But the way that it works best in your kind of situation is to combine it with an aura ring, OURA, aura ring. An aura is basically a way it measures a lot of things, but it measures your sleep. And it measures whether you get into deep sleep, whether you get REM sleep, but it has the ability, you can set it so that your Apollo and the aura ring communicate together throughout the night. And when aura detects you're starting to wake up, it sends a signal to your Apollo, and the Apollo kicks in its sleep vibration pattern to keep you in deeper sleep. Okay. And it is something I've been experimenting with now for about 2 months, and it has improved. I don't have severe sleep problems, but it has improved the length of sleep I'm getting each night, and I'm getting much less wake ups in the middle of the night than I used to before. So, from my standpoint, one person, right? But again, it was designed by a neurologist, and I'm finding it to be impressive. The trouble is, it's quite a cash investment. So you're talking, 350 or so for your Aura ring, another 350 or so for your device. But in terms of something that might keep you asleep at night, I'm having some success with this. So it's something for you to consider.
Okay. And then the last thing I wanted to ask was, depression runs in my family. I'm not on antidepressants, and I do feel, well, exhausted all the time and down. But do you think maybe a low dose antidepressant might help calm my nerves or calm
It
my
could.
nervous system?
Yeah. Again, this might calm your nervous system. I mean, that's one of the things it does. Okay. But also, coupled with an aura ring, it can do that. But also, yeah, I mean, part of one cause of insomnia is depression. And if you could get some better control on that, you may have better chance with sleep as well too.
Okay.
Keep in mind, if you were to try to use an antidepressant medication or even antidepressant herbs, the prescription medications have about a 50% chance that any one you try will help you, right? So if one doesn't work, that doesn't mean another one might not work, all right? And so part of psychiatry is basically continuing to try again and again until you find something that works. All right. So just keep that in mind too.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right.
Thank you very much.
You're
I would
welcome.
I would echo and add to what Dr. Ross said. The Apollo Neuro is really helpful for going to sleep and really helpful for the nervous system and relaxing into parasympathetic.
Thank you for
Okay.
sharing that, Eric. I
Great.
appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I've heard about like different music or tones that you can listen to as well.
Yeah.
Alpha waves or delta waves, something.
Yeah. The thing I like about this Apollo Neuro is if you combine it with your Aura ring, it's actually, it's synced to vibe only when you need it, basically. And it detects when you're waking up and puts you back into sleep again, basically. So yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
All
Interesting.
right.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. Good luck. Tracy, I see your hand up there.
I was just thinking about what you were saying to maybe it was the first person or the second person about kind of like adrenaline surges at night and
Yeah.
maybe using a beta blocker. I just wondered if that might be something that would be useful in this situation too.
I haven't, if as in any situation where people are having difficulty sleep, partly you've got to figure out, are there other factors contributing? So like if somebody's got severe pain, you got to deal with the pain, right? If it is adrenaline surges, and I'm not sure if I quite got that part here, but anyhow, if there's somebody, sounds like they're having adrenaline surges that are keeping them awake at night, then maybe a beta blocker might be something useful too. All right. Anyone else have a comment here? All right, let's move on here. Sephora, good luck to you. It's a really hard situation you're in, but it gave us a chance to talk about sleep. I haven't talked about sleep in a while here, so thank you. Good luck to you. Hello, Eric. Let's see. I'm on atopiquone, proconil, rifampin, and azithromycin about 4 months in and on microbiome labs, spore and base and seed probiotics, butyrate, Saccharomyces boulardii over a year, already healed gut a lot. Have Babesia oticoli, Bart Borrelia positive at T labs, now in a killing protocol. Let's see, Babesia, Bart, Burrell. Okay. Just feel bloated a lot when I eat, but drugs are helping neurologically. Just sometimes mild stomach pain. Don't want to wreck my microbiome, but feel drugs are necessary. What do you think? When is the right time to stop them? Also curious if you have an opinion of frequency medicine like Rife Technology, Doug Coyle, or GB4000 had a profoundly positive response to it. Thank you so much for your help. All right. So regarding the gut, you know, there are times we just have to use antibiotics, unfortunately, because it's a risk benefit analysis. The risk is let my tick-borne infections stay so that I don't put something in my gut that may hurt the microbiome, or hurt the microbiome so I can get the tick-borne infections under control, right? And it's the best you can try to protect the gut if you do that. And sometimes you just got to do it. If you have a Babesia oticoli, although you could use a cryptolepis for it, your strongest way to go after your Babesia oticoli is to be on that, well, actually, if you have oticoli, have they talked about doing tafenoquine with you at all or not?
Yeah, we're in discussions about it.
Okay, so eventually you're going to need to probably add in a tafenoquine or a primaquine, one of those two. Okay, so I guess what I would say is I understand, but you got some pretty big bugs, and especially with the Babesia, I think you have a better chance, especially if it's Oda coli, if you stay with prescriptives on that, basically. All right, and the other thing you might, given that you're already doing some great stuff, you've got your gut in a better place, but you're still not all the way there, you might want to think about that Thaenabiotic that we were talking about earlier. If you were just to Google them, you'll find them. They sell directly themselves. I have been in a discussion with them to start carrying it here, and that it got all convoluted. We didn't do it, but I may go back and see if they're open to doing it again. But I think it sounds like a good product. I've met with them before, but that might give you that little break, that extra piece you need to kind of help keep your gut together during this too. Okay. And then in terms of Rife machines, so if we look at, so what everyone, the idea with a Rife is that it sends electromagnetic frequencies to you at a frequency that resonates in a way with the germ that it kills the germ. Much like if you were to take a opera singer and put them in front of a glass of water and they find a frequency that vibrates the glass and they bust the glass, that essentially is what a Rife technology is doing. Regarding its effectiveness and how it works on tick-borne infections, let me give you a few more comments on that. So in terms of Borrelia, I don't think it is a comprehensive Borrelia treatment or management, because Borrelia, one form of Borrelia is the L form, which is intracellular Borrelia. And inside, what an L form does is it's a spirochete that loses its covering and moves inside of cells. Well, inside a cell, there's nothing to vibrate, right? So you're probably a weak point of rifing if there, is that it may not be able to get at all forms of Borrelia, all right? And then when we come down to effectiveness, if we look at studies that have been done, there's a group called My Lyme Data that's part of LymeDisease.org. And they have collected data. I think they're up to like 17,000 people now in their database. So they collect information from people living with Lyme. And a few years ago, they sent out a question asking about alternative therapies. And they wanted to know what kind of side effects people had from alternative therapies and what the success rates were. And basically for rifing, I think their success rates, people reported some success of about 35%. So it ranges in a placebo effect benefit, because if we look at placebo effect, meaning taking a pill, you get some positive reaction even if there's inert substances in it. that happens in 35% of all drugs that are approved. 35% of those drugs may have a placebo effect. I'm sorry. The effect of those drugs, 35% of it may be a placebo effect. Okay. So when 35% of people report getting better on Rife, is it because it's a placebo effect and has nothing to do with killing? I don't know. I know that I have had people do Doug coils and various forms of Rife technology that report benefits from doing it. And so I think there is something to it. There is no, we do not have good science showing it works. And there is issues about long-term safety we just don't know about. Okay. In terms of the Doug coil specifically, if I were to suggest people do a certain type of Rife technology, I think your more potent way is with a design called a Doug coil. There was a guy named Doug that first developed the Doug coil, and it literally is just a spin of wire going around a spool that emits these electromagnetic frequency waves. And it's my understanding is probably the more potent way to do it, basically. So yeah. Okay. Does that answer your questions for you?
Yeah, interesting. Thank you so much.
All right. So everyone, if you want to see if you're wondering what alternative therapies work, and because I have a whole article about this, I just do it this way. Let's see if my search is working better here. Alternative.
I think I've seen that my Lyme data stuff before, and I put it to the last on my list of things to try, and then I tried it and I was like, oh my God, this is incredible.
Yeah, so it's this one right here. What works? Navigating prescription and alternative medicine Lyme options. And in here, I have this chart, and it reviews the success. Okay, so Rife Machines were shown to have a 35% benefit. Ozone, about 40% of people reported having some benefit. Hyperthermia, about 45%. Okay, so this is a data set to at least look at to get some inference as to whether a certain type of alternative methodology may work. Stem cell therapy, it was only 3% of people reported benefit. And this was an area that was a craze about 5 or 6 years, 7 years ago. Everyone was getting their stem cells, and I wasn't seeing benefit when my patients went to it, but evidently most people did not see benefit when they went to do it. So yeah. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Let me try to, all right, how do I go back? There we go. Stop sharing. All right. There you go, everyone. That's it for tonight. Again, I've enjoyed being here with you tonight, and I look forward to spending time with you again in a couple weeks now. Again, I'll be off next week. For those of you that are sticking with me as I've come up with this new combined site, thank you. We've had some difficulties. It's been a very difficult process relaunching this. I'm still working with my developers to get the site working faster and providing the information that it needs to. So bear with us. We're just about there, I think. It's been a great improvement in the last 2 weeks, but I know if you tried our site about 2 weeks ago, it just wasn't good. So I appreciate everyone sticking with me on that one too. And tomorrow, go ahead and sign up for 2 weeks from now. And then again, I look forward to trying to get this thing out to you between 9:30, probably 9:30 to 10 tomorrow morning, the recording. Okay. All right. Good night, everyone.
Thank you. Good night.
Thanks a bunch.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Good night, everyone.
Bye. Thank you.